upon a neighbor. Every generous act of giving with every perfect gift is from above. Amen. So here we are in the heels of Jesus preaching in the text last week, which comes immediately before today's reading. He's preaching about what it is that defiles. After that conversation with the Pharisees who were getting on the disciples for not washing properly before their meal, and he says those words about how it is what comes from the human heart that defiles, that makes common, that renders us unholy. And the last three on that list were slander, pride, and folly. And now, as Jesus makes his way into Tyre, which is in modern-day Lebanon, along the coast of the Mediterranean, it is not part of Israel or Judea, but rather another country. He comes into this area to get away, maybe to rest a little bit. And of course, the paparazzi find him there as always. They know where he is, and the word is out. And this Syrophoenician woman, now, we think of her as a foreigner, but actually Jesus is the foreigner here. This is the land of her ancestors. She is in her own country of origin, and she finds this man about whom she's heard so many things, that he can heal the sick. And she has a daughter, a little girl, with an unclean spirit, a demon. And she begs for him to come and heal her. And then we have, as if Jesus wanted to highlight the stuff that comes out of our hearts, the slander, the pride, and the folly. He says those words, "It is not fair to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs." Slander of this other nation's woman. The pride of a Jew saying, well, we're the chosen ones. And this folly of it all. And I think that's what Jesus really wanted to show us, is how stupid that sounds when there's a little girl suffering. And this woman with her faith surprises us all, doesn't she? What a wonderful faith to think that the crumbs are enough. If I get one crumb from you, Jesus, I'm good. That crumb, that little bit that falls from the master's table, will heal my little girl. And I can move forward in joy again. And sure enough, Jesus sees her amazing faith, her incredible belief and trust that she will not be forgotten. Though this man is a Jewish rabbi, and she in her land is other. What a beautiful showing of faith. And as if that wasn't enough, Jesus highlights all of that. The very next thing that happens is Jesus makes his way from there now by the Decapolis on his way back to the Sea of Galilee, again through other land. This is not Judea. This is not his homeland. And he runs into another one. A deaf man is brought to him. One who cannot hear and cannot speak. Now, many of you know that I have a brother who is deaf. He's born deaf. He's what they call profoundly deaf. He is missing the nerve between the ear and the brain, and so there is no way, hearing aids really don't do much, that he can hear. And one of the things that goes along with that is that you can't speak, right? Because we don't realize it, but as we learn to speak, we hear ourselves, we hear others, and can correct our speech. So we know that this man who is deaf and cannot speak, that most likely he is deaf since birth. He's gone his whole life never having been able to hear the language spoken, to hear his own speech and correct it, and so has trouble communicating. And it's not an accident, I don't think, that Mark places this right after that. That Jesus on his way, still in a foreign land, here's another foreigner, right? And this man comes before Jesus, and he says those beautiful words. It's Ephphatha in the Aramaic, which is a traditional language of the Jewish people. going back in their history. And in each of these cases, it's very interesting to note, there's a highlight of the fact that Jesus is the Jew, the outsider, right? It's not fair to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs. I'm other than you. Here he is using another language, one that if this man could hear, he wouldn't have understood anyway, growing up in that other land. And he's highlighting the fact that this is other. And he's highlighting the fact that these two individuals, this woman with her daughter and this man, are important to God. That it is not only about a select few, as we have with those traditions and those rules that were highlighted last week about washing and being a good, perfect, fill in the blank, because it applies today, even Christian. Sometimes we think, I'm going to be a perfect Christian, I am in good with God. Never mind the rest. Jesus is always making it clear. Are your ears clear? Do you hear this message? Are you with me here in this movement from pride and slander and folly to opening a life for this little girl, throwing those crumbs out, knowing that there's much more in store? Because Jesus would go to the cross as a Jew, perhaps because he was a Jew, but he would rise from the dead for everyone, for me, for you, for all nations, bringing that promise of love and healing and hope to all people. So here you have those wonderful words, be open. Are your ears clear? And the neat thing about that is, now you can hear, you can speak. And now that we can hear from Jesus what it is to love others, what it is to embrace all nations, maybe we can mimic that. Maybe we can correct ourselves when we are too quick to judge or quick to divide one from another in our own nation or throughout the world, to write off whole people as less. Can we hear? Are our ears clear to hear Jesus reaching out to those who are different, those who his own people would write off? There's a wonderful song by Squeeze from the 80s. They were an English kind of pop mod, I don't know, new wave-ish band. They had one called Cool for Cats. I wish I could remember the whole song, but it's Cool for Cats. And there's one line and it says, and everybody tells me that it's cool to be a cat, cool for cats. Right? And I think the whole song, I was looking through the lyrics, it's a very playful song, but I think he's talking about, the writer, whoever wrote it, is talking about how we have these little clubs, you know, and they take advantage where they can, you know, and these cats, right? This is we're coming back from Sammy Davis. You remember Sammy Davis? That's a cat right here. You know, the cool cats could do whatever they wanted. They were the in crowd. And these in crowds could do whatever they want. And it's cool to be a cat. Well, tongue in cheek, cool for cats. Because you know what? Jesus is saying here, you're cool however you might be. Cool for cats. Good for the Pharisees, for the Jews who are following the laws, who are earnestly seeking God in their own way. And you know what? Cool for you. For a Lutheran Christian here in the year 2018. Or cool for you when you're seeking healing and love and have faith in a God who is more than any one group on earth, any one tribe, any one people who want to say, well, we're the cats that are in. We're all cool, whether we're cats or not. When I was at Boston University a freshman year, it just happened to have been around that time that somebody in the bookstore came up with the idea for a button, right? And of course it's BU, Boston University, B period, U period. Somebody wrote it out, B-E-Y-O-U, B-U. You're cool the way you are. Christ came for you as you are. Jesus loves you and holds you important, holds you beloved, child of God. That is the salvation we have in a resurrection of a Lord who dies for the sins of the whole world. Not just the cool cats. Not just those who do and say the exactly right things but all of us who fall short, all of us who need love and forgiveness. Are your ears clear? What is this man, this newly able to speak man, going to say with his new voice? What are we going to say with our new voice now that our ears are open and we hear Christ coming into the world and bringing about a new revelation of love? How will we hear and correct and move forward? Not to earn anything, because it's ours by grace, but for the love of neighbor, to open their ears, to let them hear the good news.